One thing I'm learning as I get older, I am 55 now, and through my experiences, what I'm learning as far as, people getting along is that we get along so much better when we have interaction with one another. And I remember one time there was a lady that I used to work with, and I didn't work directly with her, but I would cross her in the hallways and I would say hello to her, and she would look me dead in the face and she wouldn't say anything. There was no hostility, there was no anger. She just didn't say anything to me. As a matter of fact, we used to kind of park next to each other in the parking lot. I noticed like what kind of cars people drive, and she drove a truck. And, I like to park far out, so I don't get door dings on my car. And so I took like the last space at the end of the parking spot, and she did too. And I never really ran into her out in the parking lot, but I knew it was her car. I would see her walk to it sometimes. We just never, cross paths. But after a while, she even stopped parking next to me, or we were next to each other. And she parked on the total opposite end of the parking lot. Now, I'm not saying she was trying to avoid me. I don't know, but it was just interesting. And this interaction with this lady went on probably, I would say, I want to say maybe a year. It probably went on for a year. And after a while, you don't want to force yourself on people. So, you say hello for a couple times and people don't say anything back. You just move on. You don't have hostility, attention. It was her choice. She didn't want to speak to me for whatever reason. I don't know. Um, so I just stopped saying hello to her, and I stopped just looking at her and nodding. So whenever I saw her, I just knew that, she didn't want anything to do with me. So I would see her in the lunchroom or see in the hallways or something like that. And I just knew she didn't want anything to do with me. So I just ignored her, but I didn't make it obvious. I just ignored her. Well, an odd thing happened. One day, I was at Costco. Me and my wife were at Costco, and we both. I was coming in. I think she was coming out, and our carts like almost ran into each other, and it was so interesting. And it's like all of a sudden, me and this lady, we just start talking. We start talking. I didn't know her name. I got her name that day. She got my name, introduced her to my wife. I met her husband. We just started talking. It was just an interesting thing. And it was just that interaction of us talking that got that barrier down. And after that, me and her have been really close ever since. I have a lot of respect for her. I talk to her a lot. And it's just interesting. I never did ask what was the situation with us for that year. I didn't go into that. It's not necessary. But the point is, one of the ways to break down barriers is to have interaction with people. And it has to be like an honest interaction. Like, I can't be offended just because somebody doesn't talk to me. I just have to be open. You have to be open about that. I think about situations with what's going on in Asian American community right now, where you have people doing horrible acts of violence in certain areas on these folks, committing crimes, committing violence on these folks, saying things that are just unnecessarily, like when they labeled the coronavirus, and they try to label it after our Asian American culture or people. And it's just wrong. And I think about my relationships that I have with many Asian American friends that I have, friends that I can count on, friends that I've gone to school with. You know, a few years ago, I received an MBA, and in my MBA class, there were 2 Asian American ladies in that group, and we were in this program for 4 years together. We went to class, I think it was every Tuesday night, and we were in that class for 3 or 4 hours. We did projects together. We rooted for each other. We helped each other. We even graduated together. We went to one of my friends, my Asian American friend's house, and we had a party. You know, we celebrated. We supported each other afterwards. So we came real close. And even sometimes one of my friends, Asian American lady, I remember one time I had a situation with a family member, and something happened with their some data they had, which was with their company, and we needed help with that. And I called this person real late, about 10 o'clock at night, and they helped me. So the point is, I just have these interactions with various people. So when I see a situation where I see that folks are being brutalized, I think of them. When I see a situation where people are calling this virus and they're naming it after, you know, Asian Americans, I think of them. I think that must hurt them. That makes me very sympathetic. And the thing, when you have these interactions with people, you know, not that it happens with me often, but because I have interactions with these kind of people that I love, that I care about, I won't listen to negative talk about a different culture that I have interaction with, because I'm thinking about the very people that I have relationships with, deep relationships with. I won't listen to jokes. I won't listen to people saying any negative comments. I just won't listen to it. And sometimes I'll say things, and sometimes I'll just shut them off. You know, I'll disengage from that person because I have these relationships. And I try to do that in my life too, as a person of color. I try in every chance I get just to have some sort of connection with folks. Even like when I go to a restaurant. When I go to a restaurant, sometimes people stereotypes people of color in restaurants. But when I go to a restaurant, I try to be respectful. I have an understanding I'm being served. I don't look down on anybody. And I always tip 20%, if not more. I mean, in almost every case, that's what I do. Even if the food wasn't great, even if the service wasn't that good, I still tip the 20%. The only time that I wouldn't tip that much is if somebody was just deliberately belligerent with me. And that is extremely rare. I can't even think, maybe one situation that I could think of. That's all I could think of. I know I've been irritated with people sometimes. I remember one time I had walked out without even taking my order because it was that bad, but I didn't even stay. But the vast majority of times I tip, I'm respectful, and I do it because as a person of color, I'm interacting with somebody else. And this is my part of engaging and doing my part of breaking down the mental barriers that people may have of people of color, you know, so that maybe they'll think twice about interaction with the next person of color, or think twice about what their feelings are overall with people of color. I don't know. But I'm having an interaction, and I believe um, that people, when they have these type of interactions with different cultures, different people, whoever it is, I believe it's really a good way to break down barriers, because when we have these interactions, it breaks down the fear that people have. You know, people that know me are not afraid of me. They're just not. People willing to get to know me are not afraid of me. But someone who doesn't know me, hasn't got a chance to get to know me, they would be afraid. And and we have a responsibility, all of us, people, just in general, just to try to move that forward and be forgiving about it. I remember I had a neighbor once, and this neighbor was hostile towards me initially. And, for whatever reason. But over time, though, me and this neighbor, as we continue to see each other, as we started to wave to each other, whatever it is, we just start developing a relationship. And after a while, it's as if those things never happened. So it's almost like our relationship with each other, our willingness to engage with each other, broke down those mental barriers that was there, that maybe that person stereotyped me, or maybe that person didn't like me based on some thought in their head, or I'm not sure. But the point is, I still had a responsibility just to keep moving forward, as best I can. You don't want to force yourself on anybody, but you want to be forgiving, as people are hostile initially when they don't know you, and just do your best to move that relationship forward. And I think that's what the issue is with a lot of people out there who have differences, because it's okay to be different. Whether it's a different culture, or in different culture, or within your culture, it's okay to be different. It's even okay to have disagreements. I did a video a couple of days ago, and I asked, I was giving my opinion on something, and I asked folks to give their opinion, and I said it's okay if you disagree with me, and it is. And people didn't agree. The few people who gave their opinion didn't agree with me, and they said so. I'm not offended by that. Some people didn't like my video. Some people gave it a thumbs down. I'm okay with that too. I don't know why I'm okay with that, but I'm just okay with you don't like something that I'm doing, or if you don't agree with something that I'm doing. I'm okay with that space. I still express myself, and you express yourself. We can still coexist if we don't agree with one another. I know people, close friends of mine, really need people that we have different political views. We're on the opposite side of the spectrum, and we don't agree with each other. But we're close enough friends that we still can go to lunch. We still can talk. We don't talk a lot of politics because we're so different, but we both know that we're on different sides of the spectrum as far as politics. But I know this person, and this person knows me. So we can have that disagreement because we know each other. I'm not making up some idea about this person in my head, who they are, because they have a different political view than me. And they're not doing the same with me. They know what I am. They've known me for years. But that's how you break down barriers. We know each other, and then we accept each other's differences, as long as we're not trying to hurt each other or hurt someone. So I think that's the key when you see people so adamant about a different culture, like they're so adamant, and it goes both ways. It's any culture can be against any culture, or any person can be against any person. So I'm talking about everybody. But when somebody is so adamant about someone or another culture, I just feel like it's because we don't have that interaction. Because initially there could be tension. As I mentioned, I gave you a couple examples where there was tension, but for whatever reason, because of interaction, we were able to work through that tension, and then we have a normal, if you could call that a trusting relationship, because we know each other. I mean, that's usually how it works. Um, you can't help when you initially meet people how they feel about certain things, people, or the stories they tell themselves. You can't help that. But as you interact, it will unravel those stories a little bit because they'll see what you're like. So, in closing, I just want to remind us, as we're interacting every day, it's really up to us that we do our part just to interact with people, let people get to know us, we get to know them. And this one by one, you're just breaking down these stereotypes, you're breaking down hostility and tension, you're caring about each other in different cultures or whatever the situation is. Because that's how we're going to move forward. So anyway, that's really all I have to say on that. So peace and hope, everyone.